Hello, we're reading from Ideas and Opinions from Albert Einstein. And we know about Albert Einstein's ideas in science, just the camera, but we don't often know about his ideas and his thoughts in other matters. This book was so great because it deals with that. So let's go into it. Teachers and Pupils. A talk to a group of children published in Mein Wijnbeeld, Amsterdam, Quero Verlag, 1934. My dear children, I rejoice to see you before me today. Happy youth of a sunny and fortunate land. Bear in mind that the wonderful things you learn in your schools are the work of many generations, produced by enthusiastic effort and infinite labor in every country of the world. All this is put into your hands as your inheritance in order that you may receive it, honor it, add to it, and one day faithfully hand it on to your children. Thus do we mortals achieve immortality in the permanent things which we create in common. If you always keep that in mind, you will find a meaning in life and work and acquire the right attitude toward other nations and ages. Education and Educators. A letter to a young girl published in Mein Bijbel, Amsterdam, Quero Verlag, 1934. I have read about 16 pages of your manuscript and it made me smile. It is clever, well observed, honest. It stands on its own feet up to a point, and yet it is so typically feminine, by which I mean derivative and steeped in personal resentment. I suffered at the hands of my teachers a similar treatment. They disliked me for my independence and passed me over when they wanted assistance. I must admit, though, that I was somewhat less of a model student than you, but it would not have been worth my while to write anything about my school life, and still less would I have liked to be responsible for anyone's printing or actually reading it. Besides, one always cuts a poor figure if one complains about others who are struggling for their place in the sun, too, after their own fashion. Therefore, pocket your temperament and keep your manuscript for your sons and daughters in order that they may derive consolation from it and not give a damn for what their teachers tell them or think of them. Incidentally, I'm only coming to Princeton to do research, not to teach. There is too much education altogether, especially in American schools. The only rational way of education is to be an example. If one can't help it, a warning example. Let's see if I can go into this next section. Yeah, let's do it. Education and World Peace. A message to the Progressive Education Association, November 23rd, 1934. The United States, because of its geographic location, is in the fortunate position of being able to teach sane pacifism in the schools, for there exists no serious danger of foreign aggression, and hence there is no necessity for inculcating in youth a military spirit. There is, however, a danger that the problem of educating for peace may be handled from an emotional rather than a realistic standpoint. Little will be gained without a thorough understanding of the underlying difficulties of the problem. American youth should understand, first of all, that even though actual invasion of American territory is unlikely, the United States is liable to be involved in international entanglements at any time. Reference needs only be made to America's participation in the World War to prove the need for such understanding. Security for the United States, as for other countries, lies only in a satisfactory solution of the world peace problem. Youth must not be allowed to believe that safety can be obtained through political isolation. On the contrary, a serious concern for the general peace problem should be aroused. Especially should young people be brought to a clear understanding of how great a responsibility American politicians assumed in failing to support President Wilson's liberal plans at the conclusion of the World War and afterward, thereby hampering the work of the League of Nations in the solution of this problem. It should be pointed out that nothing can be gained merely by demanding disarmament. so long as there are powerful countries not unwilling to use militaristic methods for the attainment of more advantageous world positions. Moreover, the justification of such proposals as those supported by France, for example, to safeguard individual countries through the establishment of international institutions should be explained. In any order to obtain this security, international treaties are needed for common defense against an aggressor. These treaties are necessary but are not in themselves sufficient. One more step should be taken. Military means of defense should be internationalized, merging and exchanging forces on such a broad scale that military forces stationed in any one country are not withheld for the country's exclusive goals. In preparation for such steps as these, youth must understand the importance of the problem. The spirit of international solidarity should also be strengthened, and chauvinism should be combated as a hindrance to world peace. In the schools, history should be used as a means of interpreting progress in civilization, and not for inculcating ideals in imperialistic power and military success. In my opinion, H.G. Wells' World History is to be recommended to students for this point of view. Finally, it is at least of indirect importance that in geography, as well as in history, a sympathetic understanding of the characteristics of various peoples be stimulated, and thus understanding should include those peoples commonly designated as primitive or backward. And that's um, Einstein in his own words. I don't have to say anything, but remember in 1934, Hitler was already, Germany was already, because I hate to blame everything on one person, but Germany was already, um, I believe by 1934, showing some anti Semitism, or at least showing that it was becoming um, an authoritarian state again, or becoming an authoritarian state. So you have to take in mind what these people were going through as they're writing these things. When people write, it's like when I write and I put stuff down, essays, I'm coming from a specific time when things are happening and responding to the time. Um, and I also look in the past and I also look toward the future. And I like Einstein because he does that. Agree or disagree with him, he does that. Until next time, I thank you for your support and ask that you can continue to protect your mind, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.